Well, we're outside of the City Hall, the Farner Government Building, with Mel Pins, the coordinator of the Iowa Department of Natural Resources Brownfield redevelopment program. Just a few minutes ago, he was finishing a report that he gave to the City Council on the potential suitability of an area in town known as the Heider manufacturing site that the Council is considering for a potential new library. Mel, thanks for your time. Can you tell us, give us an overview of what you presented to the Council, what you have in your hand right now?
As the City of Carroll might consider a redevelopment project on a roughly 2-block area on West 3rd between Main and Carroll Street, the city came to the DNR and asked if that site would be suitable for a library redevelopment from the perspective of any environmental contamination that might be there from past historic activities, including Heider manufacturing, as well as any current activities. So through our Brownfield redevelopment program, we came out in August of this year and took more than 360 different samples and analyzed those for 30 kinds of contaminants. Of those contaminants, 99% of the samples passed our most conservative study, and we recorded that here in this report dated October of 2010. Within that report, you can see all the analysis for both soil and groundwater. In 3 of the soil samples, we found some very low levels of metal contamination, arsenic, lead, and chromium, but that might actually be naturally occurring as soil is composed of metals to a certain degree. These were at very low levels, should not impede reuse of the site as the city might look to, and that's what I presented to the Council tonight.
So for years, people have suspected that there might be some problems with that location, which I believe there were 13 property owners that you had some interaction with in terms of those sites. And for years, there's been speculation. What's the final verdict from the DNR, the state's regulatory body, on the suitability of this site for a potential library?
It can be very common for people to think that because there's former industrial or commercial activity that's intense, that there's probably contamination there. Basically, with our program, we can come in and find out if the site's suitable for reuse or not. More than 75% of the sites that we look at are suitable for reuse without any extra cleanup or any extra assessment. What we found here was very much the same thing. With the data that we have, and based on those conclusions, we see no reason why this site would not be suitable for the library redevelopment project as proposed.
Of those 360 samples, those were soil samples that you took, groundwater samples. Describe what those 360 samples were, and were they representative of that property between,
Yes.
3rd Street and the Union Pacific lines?
We spread our sampling out across the site from west to east, so we had an even distribution of sample points. So if we did see any contaminants of concern, we'd have a pretty good idea if we basically have enough darts on the target so that we could then focus in further. With that initial run of samples, again, looking for more than 30 different kinds of contaminants at 12 different locations on those properties, we didn't find anything of any concern.
What did you find?
Again, we found some very, very residual levels of things like arsenic, chromium, and lead in just 1% of the samples. The arsenic we found was 2 parts per million greater than what we would call naturally occurring arsenic.
Now, those items that you mentioned, those elements, they sound ominous.
Right.
Why are they not ominous?
Things like arsenic sound scary because it can be. In high doses and in massive consumption, it can kill you. But at a part per million level, at the levels that we found, this is pretty much equivalent to a naturally occurring element of this. But it's oftentimes to be concerned about all of these chemistry and these elements when we don't really put it in perspective. Arsenic and lead sound scary, and they are in high concentrations where in essence you'd have to ingest it to even have a chance to have a health impact. Most people aren't going to eat dirt, and in this case, even if they would eat this dirt, the contaminant concentrations are low enough, we predict that there would be no excessive risk.
And again, back to the final verdict, in the council chambers, you noted that your regulatory body is, something of a group that wears the black hat, so to speak. Tell us what your final verdict on the site is, just succinctly.
Sure. DNR is charged with protecting public health and the environment. Based on the samples we see, there's no hazardous condition at the site that we can find. The site is suitable for the redevelopment use plan, and we pretty much put a fine-tooth comb on this, a magnifying lens on this, and we really haven't found a smoking gun of any concern.